Hello, Melton Guy here. Got a very definite subject today, and I'm hesitated making this podcast because I've dealt with it so many times before on so many different levels. I was pushed into it by myself with my mind with the events of this past week, school shootings. And I know by now that it does no good to talk to a brick wall. I've heard all the exclamations from these die-hard Trump, ultra right-wing conservatives who will tell you in a flash that all the Democrats want to do is take your guns. And I want to tell you, that's a damn lie now. And it always has been a damn lie. I'm a Democrat. And I know lots of Democrats. And I know the policies of the Democrats. I know the points of every convention since I started following politics decades ago. And there never has been a time in our history that we wanted to take your guns. Now, I had a brother that on several occasions, and I don't know why he did it, unless he was just trying to get a rise out of me, but he'd enter a room like he'd been in a conversation with somebody else, and enter a room and said, "I'm just afraid they're going to take our rights away." Well, I knew immediately what he was talking about. And that's the kind of crap that you have to put up with. We can't get to the meat of this problem because the lie is out there and it is so thick and it is believed by so many who will not check it out. But I'm telling you, and I'll say it again, it will not do any good. But no one wants to take your gun. If you want to hunt, fine. Find you a hunting rifle. Find you a shotgun. If you want a pistol for protection in your home, then fine. Get it. Nobody wants that. That's not what we're ever saying. You know what we're saying. You know it as well as I do. So I don't understand why I would have to point it out in this situation. And that's not what I really want to deal with. Your lackadaisical, your apathetic attitude toward guns. And we're not talking about shotguns and deer rifles and pistols for protection in the home. We're not talking about that. I'm laying that out there now. I'm not talking about that. I don't want to talk about that. I want you to keep those guns. I have a shotgun myself. I've had a pistol. I've had rifles. But when things like this happen, and it happened this week, and I go into this thing in my head, and I say to myself, I could have sworn I heard once again Richard Nixon exclaiming, "I am not a crook." And that high-pitched voice of Bill Clinton belting out those words, "I did not have sex with that girl." In other words, I did nothing wrong. Before you're accused, you did nothing wrong. And that's the way the governor of Georgia sounded the other day. Like, hey, we didn't do anything wrong. We don't want to talk about this right now. Well, when I heard Brian Kemp and others like him say, this is not the time to talk about guns, it sounds like they're saying, we've done nothing wrong. Well, you ask the mamas and daddies of the dead children killed in these school shootings and the ones before, all the ones before and before and before and before, you ask those mamas and daddies, and ask them if you did something wrong. When someone just blurts out all of a sudden, I did nothing wrong, there's a good indication that you're at least thinking that you could have handled this differently. You might have done something wrong in this. You know, in the years circa 1776, during the Revolutionary War and those times, with all those founding fathers who were making all these remarkable amendments and drawing up this remarkable Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, the preamble, and all of that. The Second Amendment. Everyone has the right to bear arms. And I, for one, want to go on record and stating that I agree with those founding fathers. Let's all get a gun and give them to our children. I mean, what's the harm? You could say that about them. The gun, the main gun they had and they used in the Revolutionary War, and it was the gun, was a musket. It had a range of about 100 yards, and you could actually hit something if you got enough practice time in and could afford to shoot enough time to practice. And then the time that it took to reload that musket after it was fired was a very short 30 seconds. Now, you put that in your mind in a Revolutionary War or any other situation, when you have 30 seconds before you can shoot again. That is the atmosphere. That is the gun. That are the arms. Those are the arms that our founding fathers were dealing with. And like I said, I agree for those times. That was a great decision. But do you think for a moment, and I know this, how ridiculous this is, do you think for one moment had our founding fathers been able to see into the future and see AK-47s and AR-15s and all of these kinds of things that have killed so many children and others, that they might have gone back to the table and rethink how they worded this thing? Because now I do not agree. I do not agree. Let's all go out and get one and give them to our children. Not the guns that are available to you now. No. It's ridiculous, insensitive, murderous, and it doesn't say much about us as American people. But, again, being realistic in a violent-prone climate caused by you, Brian Kemp, and your partners in what should be a crime, that crime being total disregard for the reality of your actions when it comes to the love affair that this country has with guns. But let's get personal. In the midst of all of this, in the midst of all of it, you're going to say, where are you going with this? Listen to me. In the midst of all of this, your God, Donald John Trump, tells a story of a little boy named Jimmy. And here's the story, for the most part. Little Jimmy leaves home one day, walks out the door, and he's been gone for a while. Perfectly healthy young man. Parents loved him. He loved his parents. He loved his brothers and sisters. And little Jimmy walks out the door, normal, as they would put it, as he could be. And then Donald Trump talks about little Jimmy coming home, had some kind of surgery while he was gone, and now he's no longer Jimmy, or the Jimmy they knew. He's suggesting that he's trans. He's suggesting that he's gay. I don't know what the man's talking about, but he made it very personal because he named a little boy named Jimmy. He leaves home, walks out the door, alive, normal, and he comes back changed because of what they did to him at school in terms of what we're facing today with the transgender Americans, heterosexual Americans, homosexual Americans. And the only one of those that would be normal, according to this tyrant that made up this personal story, is the heterosexual little boy named Jimmy coming home. But in light of all that we've witnessed in the last few days and all the things that have been said, but Donald John Trump, you want to get personal? Let me put it to you this way. When mamas and daddies, if they are mamas and daddies like Sue and me, my wife and me, at this time, in this place, with what's going on out there, with all the guns readily available, because of you, Donald Trump, Brian Kemp, and all the others, because of this time and this place and our condition, our situation, all these mamas and daddies that are like I said, Sue and me, we do not care if our son or our daughter walks back through the door of our home as a heterosexual, a homosexual, a trans, or whatever term derogatory term that you want to use. We do not care. Donald John Trump, we do not care. Given the situation existing now when our children can't go to school and feel safe, and when parents can't send them and feel safe, we don't care how they come home. We just want them to come home and walk through that door alive. And that's my take for today. I hope you will hear it in the spirit that it's given. And I thank you for your time. And may God bless you. I will take time to promote my wife's book, Leaving Small Town, by Sue Guy. You can find it on Amazon. And my book, The Offspring of Ignorance, by J. Milton Guy, also on Amazon. I'll give a plug out to Brando, Tennessee Brando, Texas Paul, Midas Touch Network, and many others. There are so many, Adam Maka. There are so many of us out there. I'm a little bitty guy, but these guys, that's why I point you in their direction. They're making a difference. And I wish you would just listen to them, as I always say, along with Fox. Listen to it all, compare, and check it out. If you will, give me a thumbs up. If you subscribe to my podcast, I'd appreciate it. And those that I've mentioned, I wish you would give them a thumbs up and subscribe to them. Let's make this network bigger of those of us who are trying to get it done before it's too late. I love y'all. See you next time.